With her passing, the long secret riches of the Windsors are coming into some pretty glaring light. Most of the estimates put the Queen's personal net worth at between $400 and $425 million, and others say it's close to $1 billion. But look at the number on your screen. The monarchy as a whole is a corporation known as the Crown Estate, and that entity, that corporate entity, is estimated to be worth, you looking at it, $77 billion. And the whole kit and caboodle is now controlled by Charles, the brand new king. Any chance the British Treasury is going to get a piece of that in the form of inheritance taxes? No, not a chance, not even a fat chance. No dice either will they shell out any inheritance tax on the properties that are being passed down. And hold on to your horses for that estimate. It is believed that the royals own about $17 billion worth of real estate alone. The portfolio includes some prime properties in London proper, a series of shopping malls, some entire villages, offshore wind farms, and even a prison. As for castles, we now know that Charles plans to turn his mother's beloved Balmoral Castle into a museum. Prince William and Princess Kate plan to move into Windsor Castle, and Charles says he's going to be living at Buckingham Palace. What about all the other castles and royal homes? Are they going to sell any off, for good old jolly Britain? I did not forget the jewels here. More than 23,000 gemstones, estimated to be worth about $4 billion. At the heart of the collection are the coronation regalia, the orb that we saw today during the funeral, and those crown jewels, including 2,868 diamonds, 269 pearls, 17 sapphires, 11 emeralds, and 4 rubies. The most notable gems are the Black Prince's ruby, the Stuart sapphire, and the Cullinan II diamond. Time to bring back Rob and Hadley to talk royal money, pound for pound. Rob, I'll start with you. Are the Brits okay with this opulent wealth? When you really start to lay it out, like on TV and social media in particular, are they going to start to feel a little queasy that they're just mere mortals who have to pay tax, and yet all that stuff exists? And while you're at it, will this be the first big inheritance sans tax that's going to be sort of all over the press?
A couple of things. They have really mixed feelings about it. So I think most people in Britain really enjoyed what they got to see today. It's Britain at its best. Those sort of numbers of people that are watching around the world, billions and billions of people, certainly is going to be the best advertisement for Britain as far as tourism. So there's definitely a plus of it. But at the same time, when people are struggling, it's a very bitter pill to swallow, to think that these people live like this just because of who they were born to. So it's a complicated question, and the Brits have a complicated response to it when it's pointed out that the taxpayer is only paying Charles about £2 million a year. It gets a little bit more easy to swallow, but nevertheless, this is a complicated issue, and it's not going to end now or maybe for months, years to come. This is something that the family are going to have to struggle with for a very long time.
So to that, Hadley, King Charles says he's going to scale down the monarchy, fewer working royals, et cetera, et cetera. I want to know what the et ceteras are. Like, those castles are sick. And I kind of want to know if, at some point they're going to sell them, or they're going to open them, other than Balmoral, which I love that they're going to make it a museum. But that real estate and those castles, like I said, that's money. Is there any plan to change the real estate portfolio, maybe sell some of those castles off, make it a Versailles where everybody gets to go and it generates lots of money?
I've heard rumors of that, but I don't know if it's true. I do know that King Charles III is a very savvy businessman. He's done very well with his lands that he's had and really expanded the wealth and the protectivity of the lands. Of course, we know he's a huge environmental champion, and he's been very smart with money. And I think that the slimming down of the monarchy, some of it's not really his choice. He doesn't have Andrew, he doesn't have Harry and Meghan, but it's kind of aligned with his wishes. And, optics is everything. everything a lot of times. And I think just the fact that it's going to look like a tighter, more modern corporation is going to be really helpful PR-wise. So I think Charles is actually probably the right king for this moment of a lot of economic turmoil in Great Britain right now.
So, Rob, who gets money? You know, she's got 4 kids. She has, is it 8 grandchildren? And I can't count how many great-grandchildren. Is anybody not going to get any? Like, is Harry going to be stiffed from the will? You know, Harry and Meghan, off you go, forget it. Or Andrew, will she feel sorry for this kid and realize he can't make any money on his own right now and he's turfed from the royal family? So here's a big pot of gold, because it's all secret, isn't it?
Yeah, it's all secret. We're never going to find out what is in that will. As much as we've tried, the chance of us getting to the bottom of that is going to be very, very difficult. Historically, monarchs have normally left the majority of their wealth to their first, and dare I say it, son, but that's the truth, not to the first girl. It's normally gone to the first son. And so most people believe that Charles is going to get this, which might not be the worst move. He really is a terrific businessman. He runs his share of the monarchy. It's a duchy that he has at the moment that's going to go now to his son, but he runs it very well. He runs it like a private business, and he's hired some very, very smart people. So I actually think now the monarchy is probably financially in the best position it's been in for a very long time. We don't know, though, what sort of money she's going to leave, particularly to Andrew, her troubled son. She knows that he isn't going to get work now. He's not a member of the working royal family, so he still has to earn money. And so I would imagine that Charles knows that too, and will look after him, but will probably want him out of the spotlight.
What a way, right? What a way to help him out without anybody knowing, because she loves her child no matter what. She loves him, and she would want him to not be destitute, I would assume. Last quick question, 20 seconds left. But Hadley, the crown jewels, so many people have said some of those should go back to the colonies from whence they came, especially the big fancy ones. What's going to happen there?
That's fascinating. You know, I think King Charles has always been very open to being very multicultural, to be very understanding of history. And so I can actually see him maybe giving back some of the crown jewels, or at least maybe doing the royal thing and doing a tour or something with them so they don't seem like they're permanently stuck in Britain. But that remains to be seen. I think a lot of changes are coming.
Yeah, I can't wait. It's a fascinating story. And Rob Shuter and Hadley Meares, you're great to tell it. Thank you both for doing this. Really appreciate it. Thank you for watching. Go to newsnationnow.com to find NewsNation on your television provider. And don't forget to click the red subscribe button below to get more of NewsNation's fact-driven, unbiased coverage.